self-awareness is an interesting thing because in the moment, if you're unaware of something within yourself, whether it's a pattern or a blind spot, you don't know that you don't know it. It's only in the future when you've done inner work or if somebody pointed out something to you that you can look back and say, oh, I had no self-awareness about this. But in the moment, how can you know if you have self-awareness about something or you don't? How can you cultivate more of it? This is something that I'm going to be discussing in this video. I want to share with you 3 things that have helped me cultivate more self-awareness and also see myself clearer and understand myself deeper as well. I love the topic of self-awareness. It's something that I'm incredibly passionate about and interested in, whether it's doing a lot of studying about self-awareness. I'm also currently working on a research experiment related to self-awareness, but also it's a practice that I feel dedicated myself to, and I've made a lifelong commitment to constantly learn more about myself, to constantly look in the mirror with a really honest and humble approach, because there's so much that we don't know about ourselves. And I wanted to talk about self-awareness and give you 3 things and share 3 things with you that can help you be more self-aware. Now, they are not easy things, let me tell you, because if anything was easy, then, everybody would be super, super self-aware and there would be no unhealthy patterns or ways of coping. So when it comes to self-awareness, you have to be committed to seeing yourself clearly. And that also involves a little bit of pain and also very strategically placed. It involves seeking discomfort. You have to get used to being uncomfortable with the information that you might discover about yourself. And the first tip and the first exercise that is really, really helpful when it comes to cultivating more self-awareness is gathering feedback from those closest to you. Now, if you have been watching my channel before or you've come here for the first time, I always say become a researcher of your own self. That's my motto. That's something that I live by. And if you're a researcher and you're conducting a lot of experiments, you want to gather information, right? But you need to make sure that the sources from which you gather information, they are valid and they are reliable. That's the same thing when it comes to gathering feedback. Don't just go to anyone and be like, hey, can you give me some feedback about, my habits or how you perceive me? Because not everybody, first of all, is going to have their best intentions. For some people, it's just going to be a reason to not say great things to you and get things off their chest. But you really make sure that the sources that you gather, aka the people that you choose to gather this feedback about yourself, they have your best interest at heart and they want to share this information with you because they want you to grow and they want you to improve and they want you to be better. So gathering feedback from people is incredibly, incredibly helpful because not only do you get to find out more about the blind spots within yourself, but you also get to have this sort of like more unbiased view of yourself. A lot of the times we have this idealized perspective through which we see ourselves. We always see our, good habits first. We're not so keen to admit our shortcomings or be very critical with our own selves. So if you go to a family member or a friend or a partner, again, the people that you can trust and the people that have their best interest, your best interest at heart. If you go to them and you ask them a series of questions I wanted to ask you if there are certain emotional patterns that you see within me that I might not be aware of, that might be hindering my growth, or if there are certain ways that I'm communicating that are not, let's say, the healthiest, like how has your experience been with communication with me? It's also important to ask for some positive feedback, like what are some of the strengths or some of the things that you think I am really good at, or certain characteristics that I display that are really wonderful and healthy that I might not be aware of within myself. So really, the fastest way to having an unbiased view of yourself and learning more about your own blind spots, emotional patterns, is going to those that know you, that are close to you, that want the best for you, and asking them to provide feedback. The second tip is actually analyzing your triggers. And I have this really weird thing that I do, and I've been doing it for years. I have this book that I use as my self-evaluation book, I guess I would say, because I went through quite a heavy period for a couple of years where I was in therapy, I was questioning myself on everything, I couldn't regulate my emotions, I was just in an emotional turmoil, so to say. I was going through a lot of internal healing and cleaning. That's honestly what it felt like. And I got obsessed with understanding myself. I would write down all the things that triggered me, that frustrated me, and then I would draw tables and graphs and analyze where it was coming from. It was a little bit obsessive, but honestly, it really helped me learn more about myself. So I want you to really think about the things that most frustrate you and trigger you, because there is so much golden information in the things that not make us happy, not make us excited, but really the things that frustrate us, the things that get under our skin, the things that trigger us. Because there is a pattern that I've noticed. This is something also that I've discussed in therapy and also with other psychologists, but this is something that I've really noticed within myself, is that a lot of the times the things that we are triggered by are actually the things that we have abandoned within ourselves, or we have not allowed ourselves to feel or experience. So for example, in the wonderful book, How to Do the Work, Dr. Nicole LePera, she gives an example that she used to watch these videos on, I think it was Instagram or TikTok, of people dancing, and she would get so triggered by seeing these people dance and thinking, okay, they just want attention. Why are they like dancing like that? They're just attention seekers. And only later, through reflection, she realized that it was because she had always wanted to be this free herself physically and to be able to move and dance, but she never allowed herself to. So really, this was just a means of projection, something that you have abandoned within yourself, something that you didn't allow yourself to do or experience or explore. And now, instead of facing these feelings and dealing with your own self, you're looking at other people that are more integrated in that sense, and then you're projecting onto them. I've also noticed that within myself. So one of the things really is to sit down, make a list. What triggers you? What behaviors trigger you the most? What values in other people trigger you the most? What opinions trigger you the most? And then just have a little brainstorm session. Just think to yourself, okay, why do these things trigger me? What thoughts are running through my mind when they trigger me? And then try to self-reflect and think to yourself, okay, is it shining a light on me somehow? If I'm really, really frustrated and triggered when other people are very direct or very strong in their opinions, could it be a reflection of me? Am I strong with my opinions? Am I a little bit too direct or harsh with something else? Because a lot of the time other people serve as a mirror, but instead of us looking in the mirror and seeing ourselves and something that maybe we're not too happy within ourselves or something that we wish we could explore or do, instead of doing that, we just turn to other people and then we project it. So focus on your triggers, the things that frustrate you the most and make you upset, get under your skin, and try to examine why that may be. The third tip, and this is really more of a way of living or a philosophy and something that is very near and dear to my heart when it comes to being an inner researcher, is curiosity. Get curious about everything. I went through a period of time where instead of judging myself on different things, judging myself on the emotional patterns that I had or the bad habits that I had, or when I was going into my childhood and all the things that happened and thinking, oh my God, that's so awful, I wish I could change it, I got curious about it. And there's something about looking at things through the lens of curiosity that creates just enough distance for you to have more compassion and also to look at it from a distance and almost, again, through a lens of a researcher and see all the different elements that come into play, see the bigger picture. And for example, nowadays, if I'm going to have a strong emotional reaction towards something, if I'm going to get into an argument, if I'm going to get super overwhelmed about something and start, this judgmental cycle in my head, I will stop myself. I will do my absolute best to stop myself, and when I stop myself, either out loud or in my mind or sometimes writing down, I'll get curious about it. Interesting. Where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking this? What evidence am I gathering to support this belief or this thought? And there's really a difference between, oh, that's nonsense, I shouldn't be feeling this way. This is my favorite. A lot of times when I get triggered, I get frustrated, I start getting anxious, I'll say, I'm not supposed to be feeling this way. That's wrong. I thought I got over it. I thought I'm past it. I thought I already healed this. There's a lot of judgment, and then that doesn't make us feel good. Our inner child might be crying and might be really sad if we're putting judgment on top of whatever feelings we're already experiencing. But when you get curious, honestly, I feel like curiosity is the magical ingredient in just going deeper and deeper and learning more about ourselves without the added weight of things. Because if you're dealing with a lot of heavy emotions, a lot of heavy experiences, adding the weight of your own judgment, you're just adding to your own troubles. But when you look at it through the lens of a curiosity, again, you're creating that distance, but also you're beginning to see the bigger picture. So now if I get really anxious, which actually happened a couple of days ago, and I was thinking, okay, I'm feeling anxious. It's been a while since I was so anxious. I was judging myself for getting back into the cycle, and I was observing all the things that have made me anxious. I got curious. I sat down and I thought, ooh, interesting that it's coming up again for me. Why is it coming up? What triggered it? How am I fueling it even more? And I wrote down those things, and I kind of saw it as a little puzzle that I'm putting in together. And when I had some revelations, I was thinking, wow, that's really interesting. How fascinating that my mind took this piece of information, turned it into something else, and now I'm having a really strong emotional response that's not very pleasant. Curiosity, as I said, is a magical ingredient. So when you're going through things, whether it's conversations with other people, and there are arguments, get curious. If somebody is coming to you and you're starting to get into an argument, or there's a lot of bumping heads, get curious not only about their perspective, what they have to say, but also get curious about your own perspective. Why do you feel a certain way? Why do you do things a certain way? So I really hope that you take that curiosity mindset, that curiosity approach, and apply it to not only yourself and getting to know yourself on a deeper level, but also in how you communicate and behave with other people. So by combining these 3 tips, gathering feedback from the people that are closest to you, analyzing your triggers and things that frustrate you, and looking at everything through the lens of curiosity, you are able to cultivate more self-awareness, to gain deeper insight into yourself, and also hopefully see yourself clearer and more unbiasedly. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!